The man was having a terrible day. While making a dental mold, his mouth ended up sealed shut. At that moment, he looked as if he were holding a light bulb in his mouth. This sight gave the dental assistant quite a scare, just because she used the wrong product, which caused the man's trouble. The paramedic reassured the man, promising they could help him get it out. First, they gave the man a midazolam injection. Next, Brett would use a dental drill to clean off the adhesive stuck in his mouth. She instructed the man to stay as still as possible, warning that any movement could injure his lips. As the tool started up, Mikami standing nearby frowned in concern. Before long, Brett finished the cleaning. She asked the man to try opening his mouth, but he still couldn't manage it. At this point, Mikami stepped in directly. The man finally seemed much more relieved. The rescue mission was a success. Now all they needed to do was transport him to the hospital, so the remaining adhesive could be safely removed by a doctor. A man was impaled on a tree branch. Firefighters received the call and quickly rushed to the scene. Moments earlier, a woman was driving. Unexpectedly, a car from behind crashed into her. The woman couldn't avoid it and ended up hitting a man on the roadside. The man was sent flying and became impaled on the tree branch. They now needed to get the man down immediately. Captain Casey instructed the squad team to prepare ladders and a chainsaw. At that moment, firefighter Stella suggested that she could climb up, hold him until the squad arrived and take the pressure off. Casey agreed. Stella quickly climbed up. By this time, the man was already losing consciousness. She kept talking to him, trying to keep him awake. Stella positioned herself above the man and lifted him with her hands. Meanwhile, Casey and Kelly climbed up the ladder to assist. Stella seemed to be struggling to hold on. Casey quickly supported the man's legs from below. They secured the man with safety ropes. Kelly started cutting the branch with the chainsaw. Once the branch was cut, the man was slowly lowered to the ground. After an examination, they found his pulse was very weak and that he needed to be rushed to the hospital immediately. Stella jumped down from the tree. Both Casey and Kelly praised Stella for doing a great job. However, she was more concerned about the man's condition. Kelly told her the man had a 10% chance of surviving, which would have been 0 if Stella hadn't gone up there. The boy put on a costume and called himself Fire Phoenix. He wasn't afraid of firecrackers at all, and as he spoke, he lit one. However, with a loud bang, half his face was blown off. Fortunately, firefighters nearby were putting out a fire and helped call for an ambulance. The boy's friends panicked, begging the other firefighters to come over and help. Maya had no choice but to repeatedly explain that they were driving a fire truck, not an ambulance. Unexpectedly, the boy in the yellow shirt sneaked onto the fire truck. The firefighters were dumbfounded.
Did you leave the rig open, Captain?
They never imagined the fire truck would just be stolen. But as soon as it crossed an intersection, an accident occurred. The fire truck was hit by a fruit-laden truck, spilling firefighting equipment everywhere. Seeing this, the firefighters were all speechless, but they had to prioritize rescuing the boy. The boy was convulsing inside the truck, so the firefighters removed the windshield and successfully got him out. Meanwhile, the accident caused a traffic jam, leaving the arriving ambulance stuck miles away. The paramedics had to carry their equipment and walk to the scene. At the same time, the on-site firefighters used a t-shirt to temporarily stop the boy's bleeding. However, the boy's girlfriend grew increasingly panicked, breathing harder and faster. Victoria had to grab popcorn from a bystander.
Hey!
Sorry, you're helping save a life, dude.
And told the girl to breathe into the bag. Finally, Ben arrived with a stretcher. Everyone worked together to lift the boy onto it and carried him on foot to the hospital miles away. Just then, Andy noticed something alarming. The overturned fire truck was leaking fuel, but the newly appointed Captain Beckett didn't care, saying other fire truck was on the way. When Andy questioned his decision, he ordered former Captain Maya and Andy to climb the truck for inspection. Meanwhile, 2 men nearby were performing acrobatics. Tossing lit torches into the air, Sullivan rushed over to stop them, but it was too late. A torch slipped and fell onto the leaking fuel. The flame snaked toward the fire truck. Fortunately, Sullivan shouted a timely warning, and the 2 firefighters leapt off the roof, narrowly escaping disaster. However, a $1 million fire truck just burned down. Paramedics arrived in front of a house. They heard someone shouting for help from the basement. Brett knocked on the door, but no one responded. It was obvious that someone was locked inside the house. Brett turned around and kicked the door open with the back of her foot. Her partner Mikami gave her a surprised look. The 2 of them went to the basement. They found a man trapped in his home sauna. The lock on the door was busted. Mikami tried to fix the door lock, but couldn't succeed. Suddenly, the man passed out from the heat. They needed to rescue him immediately. However, the door was too thick to break down directly. Brett called for assistance. Then she went to look for a power box to cut the power to the sauna. Meanwhile, Mikami took out tools to try to pick the lock. She loved playing puzzle games, and lock picking was one of the challenges she enjoyed. Finally, Mikami successfully unlocked the door. They quickly dragged the man out. By this time, the man was already showing signs of dehydration. Fortunately, after receiving treatment, the man regained consciousness. A man faced danger in a cemetery. His entire arm was trapped under a tombstone. Two paramedics tried to lift the tombstone, but they couldn't move it at all. The man screamed in pain. Brett tried to calm him down and prepared to give him a fentanyl injection. At that moment, the firefighter team finally arrived. They needed to move the tombstone quickly because the man couldn't hold on any longer. As the fentanyl took effect, the man finally calmed down. The firefighters brought tools and successfully pried the tombstone up. The other team members quickly pulled the man's arm free.
Hey, you're out.
After checking, they found the man had a closed radial fracture. He needed to be sent to the hospital immediately. While the paramedics bandaged his arm and prepared to leave, Brett noticed the tombstone had a clown's name on it. She looked up and saw a group of clowns slowly walking toward them. Feeling uneasy, she asked what was going on. Gray explained this was Showman's Rest, the clown graveyard, built after a circus train wreck 100 years ago. Brett said she was very afraid of clowns. Seeing her reaction, Gray quickly stepped forward to talk with them.
We got a medical emergency here. I need everybody to stay on that side of Blinky's grave.
The clowns looked at them curiously, which made Brett nervous. She hurriedly helped the injured man leave the place. Late at night, a group of young people gathered for a poolside party. Suddenly, the water in the pool began to glow red. As they looked closer, they realized the volcano beneath had erupted. In an instant, the entire pool started to boil. Panic set in and everyone fled the scene. Amidst the loud music, one man didn't hear his friend's warnings. He performed a backflip and dove straight into the boiling pool. Moments later, he surfaced in excruciating pain. A girl desperate to help reached out to pull him out. Unexpectedly, his arm dislocated entirely, causing the man to fall back into the pool. By the time firefighters arrived, it was too late. The man was already dead. In the chaos, many others were injured in the stampede. The scene resembled a living hell as the firefighters worked to rescue the injured. The ground suddenly began to shake. The captain quickly ordered an evacuation. Just then, a scorching volcanic rock struck a nearby boy. The intense heat caused the rock to sink deeper into his body. Without immediate removal, the boy wouldn't survive 10 minutes, but the rock's temperature was too high. Every tool they tried melted instantly. Soon the boy lost consciousness. That's when Tommy had an idea. She retrieved a laryngoscope. It's material resistant to extreme heat. With the team's combined efforts, they successfully removed the rock, and the boy regained consciousness. Relief washed over them, but the danger wasn't over yet. As they prepared to transport the boy to the hospital, another volcanic eruption occurred. A massive rock struck one of the firefighters. This time, there was no time to react. The impact was fatal, claiming the firefighter's life instantly. From their first day on the job, firefighters knew the risks they faced. They were trained to sacrifice themselves if necessary, but watching their comrade die before their eyes was a pain they could never truly prepare for. Danger was everywhere. A girl's arm got stuck in a ball launcher. The firefighter came closer to check. He saw her hand was bleeding badly. He quickly took action. They had to cut the machine to free her. The girl said she was playing tennis when the ball got stuck. She reached in to get it out, but something went wrong. Now she felt very sorry.
I start Notre Dame in the fall to play Division I. I don't have time for an injury.
The paramedic tried to calm her down. Soon they cut the machine open. They checked her arm and found it had an open fracture. Hearing this, the girl started crying.
Oh my God.
They told her to stay still. After taking apart the machine, they freed her arm. They assured her she would recover. The girl said with sadness, "If I can't play tennis again, my life will lose its meaning. Tennis is everything to me." The woman just bit her pencil. Suddenly, a front tooth fell out. The woman looked puzzled in an instant. Before she could react, other teeth started falling out one by one. In no time, all her teeth had fallen out. The woman screamed in shock instantly. Luckily, it was just a nightmare. The woman quickly touched her teeth with her hand. Then she felt relieved, but at that moment, she suddenly coughed and unexpectedly spat out a tooth. With a series of coughs, the woman spat out several more teeth. To make matters worse, she was choked by the teeth. The woman quickly dialed 911. The rescue team arrived. The woman was still breathing at that time. The team immediately performed Heimlich maneuver, but it didn't work at all. So they opened the woman's mouth for inspection.
Oh, that is not good. Oh.
A paramedic inserted forceps into her mouth. Soon a white foreign object was removed. It turned out the woman's mouth was filled with tonsil stones. It's a bacterial buildup that accumulates over time.
Please forgive me, but I need this.
Then the paramedic removed more than 10 stones.